Okay.
Go ahead, Trevor.
I would like to call the Bismarck Human Relations Committee to order for June 21st, 2021. Okay, I will read the mission here. I can't see that. The first page. Yeah. Oh, right there.
It's at the bottom.
Okay, HRC mission. The mission of the Human Relations Committee is to protect and promote the personal dignity of all Bismarck citizens and eliminate any discriminatory barriers that prevent them from reaching their full human potential. Okay. Seeking to make the education and confidence in meaningful, visible strategy to recognize value of a diverse community. Now you can just leave it there. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
This is Krista, so moved.
A second.
Motion seconded by Brandy. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried. Any public comment? Yeah, I don't see anybody, Jason.
I don't.
Call. Okay, we'll move into 2021 HRC goals. A diversity university. Any update on that?
Not at this time. I think what Krista and I need to do is set up a time to get together to start talking about kind of the role of the kind of winter fall dinner that she has been the lead on for planning since I volunteered to take that over. And so I would like to start moving in that direction so that we can start talking about the next steps of that. And so that's something, Krista, if that's okay with you, before the next meeting, that we would arrange that meeting and kind of discuss what that transition in that process would look like.
Absolutely, Brandy. You just let me know when you're available. The next couple weeks for me are going to be a little hectic, but beyond that, it shouldn't be a problem to get together for lunch, coffee, dinner, whatever. You just let me know.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, the municipal quality index rating, who's taking that?
I can take that. So with the MEI index scorecard, we are going to be on the consent agenda for the city commission meeting tomorrow evening. So June 22nd was our goal deadline. We made it. So Jason is sharing the screen up there. He's helped with some of the language that we need, and really what we tried to do is make sure that everything that as a human relations committee that we're focused on with this project is falling underneath the city strategy plan, which if you go on the website are pages 4 through 7. So if you're like, well, what are those? We referenced pages 4 through 7 specifically when outlining this project and the why of this project. We have letters of support from the the 3 departments: public health, the public library, the Bismarck Police Department, the Downtowners Association, and the chambers. And so we'll be presenting those letters of support along with our our letter of why the Human Relations Committee felt that this was an appropriate project to take on, and then within that outline, we gave the timeline of this project roughly 12 months. And so that gives us as a committee time to continue reviewing it as we're meeting from month to month. But it doesn't take up all of our time so that we can't address or have any other projects or events, or it doesn't leave room to support other communities in the city of Bismarck. So that is the update. The goal is that we seamlessly and smoothly run through, get approved, voted on, and the consent agenda, and then we go on about our day.
Sorry, I got my, HR.
Otherwise, there is a chance that they could pull it out of the consent agenda to ask questions. So Jason, Tamani, do you want to explain that process for all of us a little bit?
Is
So
the
that-
consent agenda?
Well, and then if it gets moved
Sure.
out of it.
Items on the consent agenda, which this item is, generally get approved in one large batch by the commission. The mayor will read the entire consent agenda from start to finish. It generally is, a fair representation of almost every city department. However, it's one motion, one action from the commission unless a commissioner has specific questions relating to an item, in which time they would pull that item, approve the rest of the consent agenda, and then come back to that item immediately following for questions and answers. And generally, staff is there to answer any questions that the commissioners may have. In this case, I think both of you are planning to attend.
Yes.
As representatives of the HRC, Commissioner Nancy Guy is well versed on this topic as well, so she can help answer any questions or carry that conversation. Typically, and I certainly don't want to jinx anything, but typically the consent agenda moves forward without a lot of fanfare. And within the first 10 or 15 minutes of the meeting, the consent agenda should be approved and we're out the door and onto the regular agenda from there. What you're looking at on your screen is the cover memo. Any item on the agenda has to have a cover memo that basically explains the who, what, where, when, and why. In this case, the HRC is seeking permission to participate in the municipal equality index scorecard, and that request is right here at the top. Consider the request for approval from the city of Bismarck HRC relating to the municipal equality index scorecard, and for HRC members to engage with city staff to improve the overall rating. And then the recommended commission action, again, this comes from this office. This particular memo came from this office. The action is to approve the request, which essentially, if the commission grants approval tomorrow night, which they should, that gives the green light for everybody to continue to work forward without any sort of hiccups. The one caveat to that would be the expectation that if there are milestones or significant events that are worth reporting, someone from the HRC would come back and say, hey, remember back in June of 21 when you gave us permission to do this? Here's the results of that action and the work that came along with it. So I'd be happy to try and answer any questions if there are any. And just for those that are at home, Darcy joined us just a moment ago as well.
I'm sorry, I was running a little bit late.
Okay, no worries. So we're at item 3B, Darcy, the municipal quality index rating.
Oh, I was just gonna ask you, because I'm sorry. Okay,
And it was more or less just an update from Brandy and Jason talking about what's going on with tomorrow's commission meeting. So,
now since I came in during that time, can you just kind of update me on the part that I missed?
yeah.
Yep, so we are going to be on the consent agenda for the Bismarck City Commission on this MEI project through the Bismarck Human Relations Committee.
Now, is that tomorrow night?
That is tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah,
And so, like we had said earlier, we were shooting for June 22nd, so we made that deadline, and then Jason and I high-fived. Well, but really what we tried to make sure that we were doing when we were looking at our reasoning why that we're presenting to the city commissioners was under the Bismarck strategy plan, pages 4 through 7, on just being a more inclusive city overall. And so when we created that outline, if you had questions about what falls underneath their strategy plan, we just kind of talked about those pages and how they reference to, and I can kind of talk about, really, it talks about inclusion, equality, and accessibility, or not, sorry, it talks about where are we, signature spaces, all ages and wages, social health, 21st century business hub, complete connectivity, and government excellence. And so we were able to get the Department of Public Health, Bismarck Public Library, Bismarck Police Department, the Downtowners Association, and the Bismarck Chambers to provide letters of support for this initiative that we're taking on as a committee. So Jason Tomatic was just explaining the process of being on the consent agenda. There shouldn't be a whole lot of hiccups, as what he's kind of suggesting at. If they have any questions about our project, they can pull it off the consent agenda. There can be a brief Q&A, and then they should be able to move on from there.
And how could you get this plan? I guess I'm not quite sure what's out in this plan.
This was created by a task force, essentially, with city commissioners and some out-of-state professionals and consultants, and then different department heads. So this is for the city of Bismarck. We did not create this, but these are the values that we are outlining in our project plan and initiative as the Human Relations Committee for the MEI scorecard project. So this is what we were referencing to, and the reason why we felt it was a good project that should be supported by the city commissioners and the mayor.
Does it fit with their?
And then how, if we're not a part of it, then how can we be part of it?
We are part of it. This is
We
the
are
law.
the scorecard part of it, so.
Can I step in? And so the MEI plan that we keep talking about is a way to help tie into the city plan.
Jason, can I send you the outline?
That's what
I
we're trying to do, is we're trying to
Different
raise
plans,
that
not
diversity
different
MEI plans for, and that ties in with the city strategic plan. We thought they paired well together because they matched up, and because HRC is about diversity and educating and all of that within our community. We felt the best way to utilize our committee is to help kind of bridge into some more city strategic plans.
Oh, so all of those people there are the ones that are kind of like the steering committee, I take it?
I think Jason and I would be considered the steering committee for this specific project.
There's many projects on.
Yeah, on the consent agenda, there's a number of departments that have different projects that are on the consent
Yeah.
agenda, so usually it's one math vote through, so we don't have to give a large presentation or anything like that. They vote on
They already have the
30 or 20.
I'm just trying to familiarize myself, because when you say departments, there's so many departments with a lot of things that I'm just,
Yeah, so.
Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a recommendation to the city commission to adopt things that are going to improve the MEI score. So this would be something, an initiative taken on by all the departments in the city. The city administration would probably oversee it. Am I correct? And that's what the involvement is?
That is correct, and then it's also giving support or permission, for lack of a better word, to this group to move forward on improving the score that's already been established.
So Darcy, I think the involvement of this committee is our committee's main role when we talk about implementing change a lot of times is we serve in an advisory capacity to the city commission. As we're a city committee, there's not a lot we can do on our own without permission from the city commission. Outside, so we're just advising here. We're using that advisory capacity we tell the city commission, we want to see this MEI score increase. And then if they adopt it, which they likely will, since it's in the consent agenda, then we would likely, help them in achieving that goal. So that would be our role here.
But then how can we be a voice and how do I wanna say it? Kind of like, what we don't like, or if there's something that's missing that should be added to it.
So we'll be, hopefully it will continue being on our committee's agenda so that we can continue having ongoing discussions. So just because Jason and I are kind of like leading this right now, we. To the pile, What?
I don't think she meant to.
We didn't want to get into the weeds with this project until we knew what the city commissioners and the mayor's response was, because if it's creating if it's really contentious or they don't support it, then it's a project that isn't gonna move forward. So, in July, hopefully we'll be able to start talking about, some of the more detailed items of this project.
Okay.
And we gave the project timeline 12 months so that it wasn't going to be the only project that consumed the committee's time at these meetings. Some meetings we might not have anything to really discuss on it. So it's in that way, there's opportunity to continue doing work in other areas that is needed and is necessary as a committee. So I sent it, I swear.
I got it on my
I
phone,
was
but
like, I swear to God, I loved it.
I don't ever check my email on this computer, so that's why it's taking forever for it to
You
find
need
it.
to refresh.
Oh, it's-
Well, and I can read it if that's, so the why that we put, so that everyone is aware of what the city commission will be reading tomorrow is, Bismarck is a growing city in the heart of North Dakota. The Human Relations Committee, an advisory board to the city commissioners, works to create an atmosphere of inclusion, equity, and accessibility through education and outreach to recognize the value of a diverse community. The HRC is looking forward towards a more sustainable future. We must focus on increasing our city's index rating scorecard. This scorecard focuses on best practices to support the LGBTQ+ community members, employees, and businesses. This is taking another step towards the values in the city strategy plan and creating community pride. Over the next 12 months, HRC will outline achievable goals that fall within the following focus areas of the Bismarck strategy plan: signature spaces, all ages and wages, social health, 21st century business hub, complete connectivity, and government excellence. HRC will develop a tracking system that will provide measurable outcomes in the annual report. We will work with identified departments and community members to help quantify the data that is collected. HRC believes accountability is necessary from all stakeholders, including city employees, elected officials, and community partners, to improve the index scorecard rating and overall well-being of Bismarck. HRC looks forward to the next 12 months of welcoming diversity, exhibiting community pride, acting with integrity, and looking towards the future with this project. So most of that language is actually pulled from the Bismarck strategy plan, which all the city commissioners and the mayor should be aware of if they review their own strategy plan. I will not speak for them. So all of that really was pulled straight from the strategy plan.
Yeah, I think it's a good project. I think it's worthwhile. I hope you guys get it without any.
However it goes is.
If I-
Well, it's supposed to, yeah.
If I could be there, I would, so. But the next item is the participant in community events. Any update there? How did Pride go this weekend?
Our swag is done. No.
Yeah, so I just wanted to touch base. It's Jason Grenick here, if you can't tell online. Pride went really well. We gave out almost all of our swag. It was a really big hit. This is literally all.
So
we
is
have
that all the
left.
stuff that you gave out?
Yeah, so we
How
did
cool.
stickers, and these were actually on popsicle sticks, and they had a, sort of like a fan. Yep, all of this was done by Dakota Screen Art, and I think they did a really fine
Oh
job
my
with
God.
the product.
Exceptional job.
You know, I was a little nervous about the timeline of getting everything, but they nailed it, you know.
Well, they're like removal.
Yeah, those are temporary tattoos.
Gotcha.
Yep, so a lot of interaction, not as many pamphlets went out, but I mean, there was a lot of engagement every time I was at the booth. There were people there constantly asking who we were, what we did as a committee, why we were, you know, a lot of questions. I had a blast, and I just wanted to thank everyone who was able to help support this and just the committee for allowing us to do this. It was a really worthwhile.
I think we should do that sponsorship for the extra money next,
Yeah.
Okay.
if we have the money to do that, Jason.
Yeah, for me as a new member, I know a lot of you have done a lot of these things throughout the years, and it was an awesome experience to be a part of the community. I definitely think these are things we should continue across a wide spectrum of different communities.
Would you ever think about doing like the Capitol Fair, which is like on the Capitol grounds, but kind of like when you think of like I want to say like the folk fest, but what do they call it? Like the street fair or like the art in the park?
Yeah, I like that, trying to find more ways to engage the community so they see what we're about, you know?
And I also know that they do the Pride Dakota like during the legislative session where they have like different, well, not all the vendors, but some of them.
This is Krista. If I could just chime in quick, some of those other events, I'm not sure if I think that it really would work for us. One, very expensive to get a booth at some of those events, and two, I think that seeing how our booth went, I was really proud of the engagement. I was really proud of all of the volunteers who showed up, but Sargiana and Jason too for taking the lead on that. I think that the work you put into that, the organization, setting up the table, great job. One challenge when we set up booths every single time is our committee always supports the idea, and when it comes down to signing up for events, it's always the same people who tend to show up. So I think that, you know, we couldn't fill all the slots that we had for Pride. I don't know that we should take more on unless the committee as a whole is willing to step up. We're very limited in funds. So I think that this event particularly met with our mission and our goals very well. The two complemented each other. And I think it was a group of people in our community that we needed to be in front of so that they know we're here and we exist. I'm not sure that, you know, Pride of Dakota shows or Capital Affair would align as well, or we'd see the same level of engagement. I think people tend to go there to shop, not to learn about different entities in the community.
Word out, I guess is what I was thinking of, not so much.
But I do want to say, I think it went really well. And it was a lot of fun hanging out with everyone. It was cool to see the award presented in front of an audience, not just the city commission, but the people who really benefit from the services Dakota outright provides.
Yeah.
And
500 people there. So
Yeah,
like,
it was probably the largest Pride I've experienced in town since 2016.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was like before, and so it was interesting to be there. Interesting, what a weird.
right now.
It was a blast to be there.
And a huge props to Jason and Brandy, I think it was, who picked up the swag for this, because I'll tell you this, when I got there, there were 2 pairs of sunglasses left. And the fans and the sunglasses were the most popular items.
Yeah.
And people were coming back and they were asking for them. Like, they specifically came to our booth and said, you know, I don't know, is this people, I'm trying to find the sunglasses. People sent me here to get the sunglasses. So it was nice to see people coming up to us to engage with us based on the items we were giving out. So I think like a huge round of applause to you guys there. That was awesome. And then also, you know, worth noting that the engagement with people who came up to talk to us was so great. They really appreciate the work we're doing.
Manisha has her hand up.
Yes, I do. Hi, everybody. This is Manisha, and I just wanted to jump in real quick and congratulate both and thank Brandy and Jason for the fabulous work. I apologize I couldn't participate because I am traveling right now. I've not seen my family for the last 3 years, and I am in Ohio currently, and so I'm not even turning on my camera because it's chaos in this house. We have about 25 people in here. But I truly did miss this opportunity. But at the same time, I'm so happy to hear and be a part of the group where everyone's been working towards it. So thank you so much for all your efforts, everyone. Thank you.
Well, and
Thank you, Manisha.
I know that Krista should have a picture for Sargiana. Sarge asked for that. So I don't know how we can, I don't know if we are allowed to upload things on our social media or anything like that, but.
Oh, we have a social media?
Well, the city of Bismarck has a social media account, so
Okay.
if there are pictures that we could share of the event, we would be happy to do that.
Yeah.
You could send them to Whitney or I, and they'll probably send them to Whitney. We've got budget meetings all week, and I'll be stuck in this room for more time than I care to think about.
We're so excited.
But our public information officer, Gloria David, can definitely help. If you can provide some context or some sort of narrative to go along with the imagery, that will make it much easier for us.
Yeah, because I know Krista, Jason and I were in a photo for HRC specifically. And then, yes, you and Sarge. And then I have some shots of all of the people on the Capitol grounds that I think would be really great to, even though they weren't taken specifically from me, my friend took them for me, and it shows just the attendance. Again, there were, hundreds of people there, so it might be a really great thing to include in that shot. So do you want us to send those to Sargiana or to you or Whitney, or how do you want that?
If anything that you would like us to use on social media, if you can send it to Whitney, and then Whitney will get it to Gloria, and we'll go from there.
Sarge, can I send those to?
So I have all the pictures of everyone. Like, I was really bossy that day, but I made everyone take a picture of everybody that was volunteering. So we had everybody. So I have all of them. And I also have a bunch of pictures of our booth, like what our swag was that we were giving away. Like I took them way at the beginning because I volunteered at the beginning. So I have all that. I can send it all. I have it in, I saved it all under a thing because I need to use it later on for our slideshow that we're doing. So I have those and I can send them all to Whitney. And then Brandy, if you want to send what you have to Whitney too, as far as that goes. I just want to give a huge props out to Jason because I know the work he did prior to the event, as far as making sure the swag was in and everything as far as communicating with that. So huge props to him. And I think it was a perfect event for us to be at, just because a lot of the times when people would come up and speak to me, I would specifically talk about us going before the City Commission meeting tomorrow. So people kind of know that's what we're working on. And then I gave everybody a flyer and I talked about us to everybody. Even if they want a pair of sunglasses, they have to listen to me regardless. So a lot of people were listening to me, and a lot of people came up and said, well, you guys are a great organization. Is there someplace we can maybe partner with in the future or access to in the future? And people were interested in potentially maybe coming to our meetings and hear what we're about. So I think it was a perfect opportunity for us, where I would say Capitol Fair, Pride of Dakota, they're not going to be perfect opportunities like this one was, especially the time that we were doing it right away when we're giving the humanitarian award away from when we just had given it. And then also when we're talking about that index score, specifically with that population, I think it was perfect.
And Sargiana, that's one photo that I didn't send to you. I did take a couple pictures of the award presentation. So if you want that, or if you'd like me to send that to Jason or Whitney, I can do that.
Yeah, if you can send it in that group or just to me, that'd be fine. And I'll just save it under that file.
Sure.
And mine to you then too, Sarge, so that Whitney isn't getting bombarded with.
Sure. Yeah, if you guys just want to send them to me, and I'll just send them to her this week.
Okay, I'll shoot it over to you in that group chat you started.
And then the only thing that I noticed at our booth, and this was out of any of our control, I don't think any of us know where our banner is for the Human Relations Committee, which if we're going to continue doing booths, I think that we need to consider ordering a new one. Which brings us back to the point of that logo design. I didn't see it on the agenda today. I'm also basically legally blind, so it might be on there. All I can see are like colors right now. So, but I think it's something we were going to touch base on this meeting as far as what our opportunities would be. I think we were talking about working with the high school to get something created, but obviously, if we're getting a new logo, we probably don't want to put money into a new banner. We probably want to wait, but if it's going to be a while, it might be something we want to consider if we're going to continue doing events like these.
And if I may, Krista and committee members, I think Whitney reached out to Sister Hannah. We thought maybe she had it last, since it was, to our knowledge, probably last used at the 2019 Band Night Parade. If I remember right, Sister Hannah either just moved or had a bunch of things in boxes and said she hadn't seen it. However, I'll get to the new logo part with the next item on the agenda, but maybe one thing just to consider in the future, if we're not to the point where we've got a new logo yet and there is another event where you would be looking for a banner, we have a couple different departments within the city that have access or have plotters in their departments. So we could print a 42-inch wide, any length piece of paper with the logo information, city logo, all of that stuff on there. And so just know that we probably should have, I probably should have thought of that before when we realized the banner was around. But at a minimum, we can get something temporary until a more permanent logo is identified and then implemented going forward from there.
So what would it cost to get a new banner then?
A temporary paper one, we wouldn't
Well,
charge.
I understand that, but I mean, if we were gonna get
We have to fit it up.
one,
Yeah, I suppose it'd be a couple $100. Was the last one, it was fabric, I'm assuming, and it had a kind of
a string,
a sleeve through it, so you could put a pole up behind it, and it
Those
looked
are a
like,
lot more durable.
it looked like a banner you'd see for a marching band. So
Right.
people can hold it, and a group of people walking behind the banner, and it was probably 6 or 7 feet long, if I remember right.
That sounds right, Jason. The only thing is, and I think Jason Grenick ran into this when we were looking at putting the swag together. Our logo that we have currently is very low resolution. So
Yeah.
printing another banner, I think it would be a waste of money, because if it's low resolution for the items we were just printing, I don't want to begin to guess what it would look like blown up on a banner.
Right.
Agreed. Outside of that, I think that was all I had for community events, unless anybody else wanted to touch base on it.
How about student liaison, any update?
Trevor, if I can offer this, and then certainly anybody else, but so Krista, you had mentioned at the last meeting, working with potentially working with students with Bismarck Public Schools that are part of the graphic arts or commercial arts program offered at the Career Academy. I did some checking with our community development department here, and they actually are just on the heels of finishing up a project with students. It's part of their Together 2045 comprehensive plan project. It was done in kind. In other words, the students were not paid, and we as a city did not have to offer any funds to support that. If it would be the desire of this group, I'd be happy to make the reach from city administration to that same instructor at the Career Academy and just see if it's a project that the students could take on in the fall of 2021. And then that would maybe check 2 boxes for the HRC. Number one, it would accomplish the new logo that's desired, but also it would check the box of working with student liaisons and maybe bringing some of those students into the fray and starting to, raise awareness at the academic level as well.
I think that's a brilliant idea.
Yep, that sounds good to me.
I am cheersing you with my bag of pumpkin seeds right now. I think that's an excellent idea.
Okay, well, I won't have time to reach out today, but I will get that contact information from the instructor or from our community development department to the instructor. I hope it's a good time now, thinking that, curriculum for the fall hasn't yet been developed. I don't know, what type of duration the project would have or where the students would fall within their curriculum, but I can sure get some more information or report back at the next meeting if that's the desire of the group.
That would be awesome.
Yes, if I may say, just one thing, trying to keep the logo simple, so that the resolution, so we don't run into this issue again in the future.
And for some reason, if the concept of working with students can't be achieved, we're still in the middle of budget season. And we could come back with a potential one-time request in the future. We could go directly to the commission with a specific ask. The city commission generally has a line item in their budget for special projects, which are basically things that come up without expectation or out of the blue. This could fall into that category pretty well, and it would be an ask of the HRC for those financial dollars from the commission to support some type of logo development project. Now, the sky would be the limit on something like this, but Krista, this is much closer to your world than it is to mine. I'm guessing we're talking about probably $10,000 project at the minimum side of things.
For rebranding a new logo, yeah, I think we just did at Capital Electric, we sought bids for a rebranding, and we got them from 3 entities in Bismarck, 3 well-known ad agencies. The lowest bid, I think, was about $13,000. The highest, I believe, was $24,000. So, and that would include a lot of different things. You get the logo, obviously. They, meet with you to go over your mission and values. So it's probably a lot more in depth than what we're getting here, but also probably for a committee of our size, it's probably far more involved than it needs to be. So I think if we can get this, through the in-house, and like you said, Jason, I think it gets us involved with the students in a really great way and exposes us. I think any of those partnerships where we can work with the schools, we're getting our mission and our values, we're teaching about diversity just through the relationships that we're building there. So I think it helps meet our goal while giving us accomplishing something that we need as well.
Yeah, well, I will see if I can reach out to the faculty with the Career Academy and add something to the next agenda as far as the report goes.
And the other thing that you could do if it wouldn't work out with the students, which I hope it does, is how my nonprofit and a few other that I know of have gone with local artists that have done the branding rather than an agency. Mine, fortunately for me, was on my board, so she did it at no cost, but I think that we could probably find a local artist who could do it for way, way cheaper than thousands of dollars.
I'm also going to be meeting with Kim Esslinger. She is a professor at Bismarck State College, and she also does graphic design. And so I could talk to her about that and her students as well.
Or University of Mary, I mean, we have options.
There's also just, we did this when we went through the strategic plan process with our consultant in 2019, where he was looking to have a logo developed just for the strategic plan. And I'm not even sure what you call it other than it's just basically a call for artists. You put out an ad saying, hey, who could design a logo, and you get all sorts of different options and you only pay for the one that you pick. There's an official name for it. I've forgotten what it is off the top of my head, but it's basically just crowdsourcing material and finding one that works best for the group. But I think we've got some other really good options here to explore locally.
And Jason, if I could, one thing, if we do go outside of a program and have a local artist draw something, this is just coming from a background in communications and marketing, we need to make sure we get the vector art. And so it has to be somebody, it can't just be somebody who's good at drawing necessarily. They have to understand, what we're going to need. We're going to need high resolution. We're probably going to need it in grayscale. We're probably going to need it in color. And then we're going to need that vector art so that we have it should we need to update anything down the road. So I think that the idea of working with one of the schools, whether it be at, university level or high school, I think is great. If we do put it out for bids for artists, I think we have to have some pretty clear specifications of what we need. Because if somebody hasn't designed a logo before, these are things that might not occur to them.
And just for the group, we, the city of Bismarck, just adopted a revised logo, and we worked with Agency Malibu locally, and we got an entire brand standards package. So Krista, to your point about vector art, formulas for colors, size, shape, font, just general bookends on how to use the logo, all of that came with Agency Mabu's report. So we could definitely pull together a request for proposals and specify exactly what it is that we're looking for, so anybody that's interested in it would know what's in front of them, instead of just saying, here's a piece of paper with your new logo on it, because there's a lot more detail that goes into it than just that. So.
Mhm. And this is Manisha, and I'm just going to add something to, if you need help from students from University of Mary, I'd be happy to be in touch with their communications department and the graphic design department and see if we have, I really do think it's not just students who need to be helping out here. They need to have some advisor leading them. And I don't think, if it's something coming from psychology, I would take great pride in it and say, yeah, we were able to help local community. And I'm pretty sure that that would be something similar coming from the department, from the communication department at UMary as well. So if that is something that the group decides on, I'd be more than happy to facilitate that.
And to touch on that, Manisha, I think even if we can get a couple different classrooms involved, maybe we have the high school students working on a logo, maybe we have the college programs working on a logo, and maybe we pick the best of the pool. If all are interested in participating, I think the more submissions we can get, the better, right? Then we have some variety, some choices.
True, yes.
And that helps us diversify the school communities and the students that we're able to interact with. Just making sure it doesn't get too big.
Other business, any other business?
Was there anything else on student liaisons? We kind of got sidetracked on the logo discussion, but was there anything else regarding student liaisons?
I have a question for everyone here about the student liaison. Do you think it's time for us to bring it back on and reach out to schools and see if we can get them ready to have students to participate or submit their proposals to be a student liaison to the group starting, I think school starts August and we're in June already.
Yeah, Manisha, I thought I think a while ago we tabled it until the June meeting.
Right.
I think back in January or February. So I guess from where I stand, I think if we're ready to get started on it, I think now's definitely the time. We can get it in front of the principals, in front of the teachers before school starts, so that hopefully when school starts, we're ready and geared up to go.
And I know that Bismarck Public Schools specifically, that they'll be coming back in July, and then they're going to be doing an all-staff training 2 weeks prior to the first day of school. And I know that's only, so I could reach out and see if I could connect with Dr. Hornbacher to try to get more detailed dates and what they might need. Manisha, if that would be helpful, or if you already have a list of principals that you plan on connecting with. But I know that they should be starting to come back and having their school meetings, and then they'll have their all-school meeting at the beginning of August.
Right. I think that it would really help that if we can get the word out, the sooner the better. That way we can just prime them. And I recall that we already have the language created and everything done, right, Jason? Because we sent that out earlier as well.
I believe so, yes.
So I wonder if we want to just share that with the committee, that way we can all review it before our July meeting. I mean, we've got the language ready. I think the only barrier or the one discussion we did have was about the incentive that we're giving to high school students. And I recall, I mean, if I were a high schooler and if I had the incentive of being a part of the committee, that in itself was good enough for me, would be good enough for me. But I think that the only item that we could potentially discuss and see was, are there any additional incentives that the committee feels we need to add to the language that we currently have in there? And feel free to add any, to make any suggestions for other edits as well, please.
Does anybody, like Manisha or Jason, do you know what the incentives are or were in the past?
If I remember correctly, I don't know that there was any sort of direct incentives other than it would be something to add to a college
Application or resume? Or...
list of other activities in the community. You know, for some of those students that are looking for those pieces that help them stand out from other college applicants, I think that's what the
Yes.
was.
Right. And honestly, I have a high schooler, and I think this would be quite a unique thing to see on a high schooler's application. I would want to see more and more high schoolers doing this because that's what our world needs now. But
an immediate incentive, not saying that you're not, like, not disagreeing with that for future kind of ideas. I'm assuming that we would be attracting more of the AP students, right? But I also want to make sure that if we're putting this out there, this call to Bismarck student, or, you know, well, what this call is, that we're not making it so that it's creating barriers within itself of like, hey, the incentive is this is going to be on a college application. Well, realistically, there's some students that aren't looking at going to college, or they don't even know how they'd be able to financially do it, or they don't come from a home that really talks about that. So that they, you know, there's like different populations of students, so I don't want us to use that as our only incentive, because that's not a very good incentive for maybe a like low scoring student that is probably from a more low income or socioeconomic standpoint, but they should have the same opportunity as an AP student. So I think when we're thinking of incentives, if it's gonna be extra credit that we could get with the school to sign on to, so that these kids that do have rougher grades maybe would find that as an incentive versus a college application.
yes, excellent suggestion, Randy. I just love it. I completely agree with you. I mean, obviously I didn't think of that, so I'm so glad you brought that up. But I too agree. I mean, can we give them an incentive about an extra credit? Is that something?
Schools usually are pretty good about that, and with our timeline, Manisha, that you're talking about, I really think that we could be able to get that sort of support. If it's not from principals specifically, there are teachers who do that and are allowed to do that within their own class. Right. Just in case anyone lies to you. But I know that teachers are always looking for ways to provide extra credit incentives to their students. And so absolutely, this would be something I think teachers would also gravitate towards, because it would give them an opportunity to present it to their students as well.
Right, and I wonder if this could go into, you know, I think the leadership class or other courses, and I don't know, do we want to add the extra credit opportunity as part of the flyer, or is that something we?
I don't know if you could, Manisha, because I think we'd have to have the teachers on board.
True.
Well, but if we get permission, or we get some teachers on board, or some schools like BHS, Science Honor Century or something, if we get the okay from some of those school principals, we could actually then include it on the flyer, but I think we would have to get the permission first.
And what about the private high schools?
Yeah,
I think like, the permission would have to come from the schools before we could put it on a flyer.
I thought that we did send it as a Bismarck Public Schools flyer. It went in 2 times as a Friday attachment, right, Jason?
Yep,
But there's
So-
private schools.
So did we have permission? Do we need permission to add it to the flyer, or is there a different permission that we're looking for here?
I think the permission they were looking for, if I understood right, was to suggest that there would be extra credit for those students that were
Okay,
involved. To put it in the Friday flyer, we just pay I think it's a $20 or $25 fee. And then it just shows up in the BPS Friday flyer.
so what if we presented it to the principal and made a suggestion within the presentation about, hey, you can always share it with the teachers and get some teachers on board as a mode of extra credit? Is that something
I think
I-
that's a good
the
idea.
group would recommend we do?
And Boban, who's a city commissioner as well as a principal.
He's not a city commissioner anymore.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Manisha, I think the presentation is a really good idea, and yeah, like going to people that we know and we can target is a really good idea. I mean, Manisha, if it's helpful, I could see if when their next, like maybe when some of these high school or like the principals and staff are meeting, to see if there's a way we could present in front of them, or we could share this information with more detail about we're looking about the incentives along with this flyer, if that would be helpful to make that connection. Or if you just wanna reach out to the principals, if you believe that they're gonna check their school emails. I don't know if they
I
will.
don't-
But the idea of just presenting to the faculty essentially to say, like, we want to incentivize the students internally, with, you know, like, is this something that the school would be willing to take on and help us out with? I think that's a good idea.
I think if I can interrupt here, you had a good idea that came from the other room here, when you said about getting on the school board agenda.
Yeah.
Take it to
Oh,
the,
yes.
take it to the entire district and then let those folks
That's a
decide.
very good idea.
Yeah.
And then you're not only getting that captive audience in the room, but you're getting the reach of Dakota Media Access and everybody that's watching a school board meeting as well.
Why isn't she in this side of the room?
Oh, she's doing minutes in there.
Oh.
That's how smart she is. She's doing 2 things at once, so.
I think that's a great suggestion, Jason. And I see Krista, hands up.
Yeah, there's one thing that I wanted to touch on when we were talking about the flyer, and if we can put mention of extra credit on the flyer. I have one concern with that, and that's that this isn't going to one school, it's going to be going to all of the area high schools. So if we get one teacher to sign on at one school and none of the other schools are providing extra credit, I think maybe the better ask would be, because I don't know if a principal can guarantee extra credit. I think that's up to the teacher in their individual classroom. So I think it would be better to encourage the teacher, if they want to provide extra credit, to present it as an opportunity to their class. If we can get the teachers to take ownership of it, that's probably the best way. The other thing that I thought might be useful is when I was in high school, and I think this is still a thing, but Key Club was a volunteer organization that, you know, kids really just became a part of it to give back and be involved. So if we don't get a lot of buy-in, partnering with a group like Key Club or DECA, where they're looking for volunteer time, and maybe they need to do projects. DECA students put on different, like they put on ad campaign in competitions. They do a variety of different things where if we partnered with an existing group of kids at the school, it might work really well. So if we don't get the buy-in from the teachers or the principals, that might be the next way to approach it.
I like that. I have that. I put that in. Thank you, Krista. I was also wondering, and again, I'm just thinking aloud, so feel free to shoot this idea down. But I was also thinking, I know the National Honor Society, it requires students to volunteer with certain organizations, and they have those organizations listed on the website for Bismarck. And I wonder if any of us know how if we could partner with them or even say, hey, this is another place where students could really come and volunteer, because they would definitely learn a lot and contribute. So I'm not, is that something anyone knows? How do we reach out to them, or who their chapter, or I can find it out if the group is fine with that.
That might be a good question to ask the school board when somebody's there pitching this idea.
Yeah, when Benisha's there with support from us, pitching the idea, I love it. I do want to say this one more time, because I feel like we are, again, kind of doing the stray away of like, if we're going towards groups and clubs, we need to be very mindful that we're not excluding out certain clubs. Again, AP students are like really great, but are we looking at the Indigenous club at BHS? Are we looking at GSAs? Like, so when we're starting to whittle down and targeting school clubs as a committee, I think we need to do our due diligence to make sure we know all of the clubs that this would be relevant to present to the kids. And that we're not just going to the ones that are usually the kind of considered the good students, so that we're not leaving anyone out. And I do like the idea of going to the school board, because it's putting it out there, and then also it's kind of putting the ask on the school board and the school staff of like, we're looking at this to, so help us target the students, but I really want us as a human relations committee to be super mindful that we're not like going after the same clubs that have the same credible students that are well known in the community, that then are leaving out minority groups that tend to be left out in those clubs in the first place.
Right. And and I think when we'll make that presentation to the school board and we show that our objective is for any and every student to be a part of it, and use these as examples of groups, just saying these are some but not all, and we would like the school board to give us our suggestions, or even perhaps advertise it and share it with more and more clubs. I hope that the school board is able to give us some direction.
Well, when I used to work for the school district, there's a list of all the clubs in every school with a contact, both a teacher contact and the potentially a student liaison contact that you could reach out and give the information to, and see if they want us to come in and speak or anything, or a number of clubs together. But they should have a list of every club that's in the school with who the contact information is. Right. Then as far as the extra credit portion of it, I think it's very tricky as a teacher to do the extra credit thing, as far as having that on the principal, because what he's going to do is he's then going to reach out to the teachers. And I think some teachers would give extra credit, like me as a teacher, I would, but some teachers are going to say no. And then depending on the school too, that's very tricky to put this on the flyer. If some schools will, some schools won't, some classes will, some classes won't. I think that would be tricky to put it on here. Also, teachers may give that though.
Also, we have limited participation, right? We can't have 20 people come and sit down as student liaisons. I think we were looking for 2, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So it might create that might be a bit of a thing for a teacher. If I offer this to my students, there's no guarantee that everybody has an equal opportunity to it. And I agree with Brandy's point. When we talk about some of the school clubs, National Honor Society, I'm not saying that kids from different backgrounds can't be part of National Honor Society, but it's typically, those students that have the means and the ability to go on to college and maybe lead a more comfortable lifestyle. They don't have some of the responsibilities at home that others do. Some students have to work; they can't be a part of clubs. So I think that's a good point. DECA and Key Club being the 2 that I suggested, they're not really tied to academics. One's tied to volunteerism. The other one, DECA, when I was in high school, if you took a business class, you were in DECA. And the teachers are usually really hands-on on that. So those 2 I think would be good, but I don't think that you'd want to exclude the other ones as opportunities either.
Right, and I also think, just to speak to the thing that, hey, we're only going to be allowing, or at one time we would be giving an opportunity to 2 students only. When I proposed this, I was in the hope that those 2 students are going to be able to create a group of students who are going to go into the community and work. And so if I'm an educator and when I'm looking for extra credits, as long as I am convinced and I agree with, yes, this is a good use of their time, I would give an opportunity to whoever is part of that group to earn those extra credits, because when you're in a group and you're working towards a goal, it shouldn't just be the leaders who earn those credits. And I believe that I really think that presenting it to the school board and presenting it in a manner that we're not just looking for 2 students to be liaison, we're looking to be able to create a wave where we have more and more of this young generation being a part of this community and giving back to the community early on. That might in itself help maybe the schools add a group that just is looking for, yeah, what can we do to be a liaison with the Human Rights Committee. So that's my feel of it, that I think the presentation will help, and definitely the points and suggestions that everybody's given. I've taken note of them. Whoever goes in to present, whether it's me or whosoever, I think we can touch on them, using them as examples rather than saying, this is only what we want you to do.
And Manisha, if you contact like the FCCLAs, the FBLAs, the DECAs, maybe mention that this is an opportunity for them, you know, when they do different projects and they take them to competition. And some of those projects are related to public service or are related to volunteerism. Like, this is a really good project, and I think you could get those DECA advisors, those business teachers behind it. And really, they would be able to provide the support. And then those students would have the support of their peers likely too. They'd be in a good position to rally. So certainly don't limit it to DECA, but I really think this fits really well with some of the projects they have ongoing.
So as far as the school board to actually get on the agenda, I know how to get in public comment and everything, but to actually get on the agenda, who do you contact as far as the school board?
I don't know.
I was asking Jason, maybe he knows. I know the people on the school board, but do you contact the superintendent? Do you contact the school board themselves?
We would contact Dr. Hornbacher and just make the ask on behalf of the city. Say, hey, we'd like to, find a spot at an upcoming meeting. Brandy had asked when the next school board meeting is. Typically, they meet the second and fourth Monday of each month. However, in the summer, they have sometimes a disrupted schedule where they take off that second meeting, something like that. So let me reach out to Dr. Hornbacher and see if I can get him on the phone and talk this up a little bit. And see, I don't doubt that they would say, yes, here's a good spot on the agenda. I just don't know when that would be. So if you're all right with that, I will make the reach to Dr. Hornbacher and just talk about the HRC, talk about the goals of the HRC, getting students involved. Maybe he's got some ideas too of students or programs that are already out there, or a good way to get a running start on this. But yeah, we can add that to the agenda for the next time, and I'll fill in the group with whatever I learn over the next month.
Perfect. Thank you, Jason. And just so you know, if we're looking to get onto our meeting, I don't come back to Bismarck until July end, so the last week of July. After that is when I would be able to present if I have to.
So if we're looking at like a tentative goal dates, because I think it's important that we do set those so that we keep it in a timeline. It would be like the second weekend, or you said the second Thursday of the month, or
It's the second and fourth Monday.
sorry, second. So shooting for like the second Monday of August, because then it's before school starts. So that
August would be good, and then they have plenty of time to put us on the agenda as well.
Yeah.
Manisha, I would go with you as well, if you'd want to come with you.
Thank you. The more the merrier.
I do have a question just for my own thing. So as far as this goes, I have a child, a son that's in high school. Since I'm on the committee, can he apply, or because I'm on the committee, he cannot?
I don't see why there'd be any restrictions.
No.
Okay,
Same said for Manisha. I think I heard her say she's got a high school student.
Yeah,
I've got a high school student as well. I don't think we want to exclude anybody regardless of their affiliation or connections to this group.
and they have to write an essay. So, I mean, what I had planned was if my daughter decided to apply, I would just recuse myself from evaluating or assessing or in any way being on that and let the others do it.
Just for the group, Whitney tells me that the school board has the Tom Baker meeting room, which is the room in the basement here, reserved for August 9th.
I can make that happen. That would work for me.
yeah, I'm good too, pretty sure.
Thank you, Georgiana.
Yep,
I'll be in the audience and supportive, but I don't want to be a part of like any seat.
That's
I've
fine.
been the school board before, they know you.
That's exactly why I don't want to be there. But I think like when we're doing things as a committee, we should try to get into the habit of showing up in the room for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really important. Just because we're in the room doesn't mean that we have to be all taking turns at the podium.
No.
So, but I do think that should be something that we continue to practice.
My
Mhm.
only comment to that would be just keep it to less than 5, because if there are 5 of you, that constitutes a meeting because you've got a quorum.
Oh,
So
I don't think that policy.
Four or less. I just-
Does.
that's the government voice in me. I had to say it. So just if you're gonna do it, make sure you guys coordinate and let us know. If there are 5 or more, that's totally fine. We would just advertise it as a special meeting and just say no action would be taken. It happens often with the city commissioners. Just communicate that with this office so we know that what we don't want to do is we don't want to get sideways with the Attorney General's office. And somebody says, hey, there's 6 HRC members here, and then we've got an open meetings violation. That's like a double black eye for the city, and we want to avoid that at all costs. So.
And Jason, I'm kind of smiling because you would think that that doesn't happen, that someone would notice that, but having worked in city government, I know that it does. Even for committees that you think people aren't paying attention to. We had a guy in Mandan who, I mean, it was unreasonable how many things that guy complained about. So
I know who you're talking about, Krista. We've avoided most of his attention, but he is out there and he is a hawk when it comes to that stuff. He lives to expose what he believes are atrocities in government.
Who's that?
We're not mentioning his name because we don't want him to show up.
Oh, gotcha. I was like, mine's kind of.
he's like Beetle.
Yeah, it's like.
He's like Beetlejuice. You say his name 3 times and he just appears. You know, so we got to be careful.
I love it. No, is it you? Getting all sassy. Awesome, that was like super productive.
And
Any other business?
anything else from the folks out on Teams?
No.
No, I'm good. Thank you, guys.
I'll call this meeting adjourned at 6:27.
I would have to.
I still want to gavel for our
Yeah.
committee. Can that find the budget? Like, I should be able to do a little gaveling with you.
You're the only city committee with a gavel. We don't even have one in this building.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
So that's,
Question if you're family.
Gary will